Bing bong, bing bong. Do you remember that?
Mhm. Oh, Pouchy.
Yeah. Guys,
Welcome back to This Is Reviewable.
we went on a vacation, and you know what vacations mean.
Airplane movies.
Lots and lots of airplane movies. Honestly, I watched so much stuff I feel like I'm not even going to be able to talk about it all. So we're just going to choose the best. Right, Micah?
Yeah, that's fair. Although
The
I did watch A Few Good Men, and
Right, but have we talked about that on this
I don't think
on the
so.
cast before?
I don't think so.
We got to talk about A Few Good Men at one point.
Yeah.
Great movie. But let's get things kicked off with Inside Out 2, where Pouchy is from. Bing Bong is from Inside Out 1. That's why I introduced. It's a callback, as it were. Get your minds primed to talk about Inside Out 2.
This movie is about, what's her name, Riley?
Yeah.
Going through puberty, basically.
Yeah.
And figuring out new emotions.
Right.
And so the movie starts off, her and her two best friends are on the hockey team, and the high school coach invites them to camp, basically. And the movie is her, dealing with puberty and new friendships and all of that.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And a big part of this is as she's moving into adolescence, she's starting to develop, what do they call it? Like an ethos.
Oh, like a
Say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism, dude. At least it's an ethos. What's that from?
The Big Lebowski. Are you kidding me?
Good job.
We were just. Are you kidding me?
I'll do this really funny thing where I'll say the most obvious movie quote ever, and then I ask Micah what it's from, and then she'll give me this look like,
"Are you dumb?
The fuck you on about?" And then she'll say, "The Big Lebowski."
Because that's what it always is.
And then I'll very patronizingly go, "Oh, okay, good job. I didn't think you were gonna get that." Just it's just like a fun, cool little game that we do. I think it's really cool.
Yeah, it's just so fun and such a cool game.
What did you say it was called though? Her belief system? Is that?
Well,
is that
you
what
were
they
calling
call
it an ethos. I think it is a belief system.
Yeah, just like an idea of who she is as a person, her values, value system.
Her set of values?
Yeah, something like that. Which like I really like how this
Oh, don't spoil it.
well, just within this world, the mind is something that is always expanding and gaining new parts and new knowledge. For example, these new emotions come in and
which I did really like, because I was thinking about this later. When you're a little kid, let's just think about toddlers.
Yeah.
They really do feel extreme emotions.
Well,
they
and
feel
pure emotions.
Right, and that's what it is. It's joy, and
Yeah.
it's anger, and it's disgust,
Sadness.
and it's fear and sadness. Like, those are all very basic emotions.
Yeah. But now we get a little bit more complicated versions,
a little bit more
of
nuanced.
Because there is
embarrassment.
Yeah, embarrassment, anxiety, envy, and who am I missing?
Ennui.
Ennui, yeah, I love
Which
ennui.
is
Boredom, basically boredom. F***ing hell.
Okay, I have a question for everybody. Does anybody actually leave their ringer on outside of, oh, I'm doing this, I'm waiting for an important phone call?
Well, now I gotta leave. Now I gotta leave that in because it's a tangent.
Because that joke of you're sitting in the movie theater and they ask you to silence your cell phone and you still check knowing that it's off. Braden actually has to check to see if his ringer is off.
Because it might be on.
Because it's probably on.
And I have to check my alarms because there might be one. Ennui is basically like teenage snarkiness kind of wrapped up into a bottle. It's boredom and sarcasm and all of that. Yeah, I think he was my favorite new emotion if I had to pick a favorite, but I think they're all good.
I think they are good.
And yeah, I mean this is more Inside Out, and I think it's pretty much just as good as the first one was.
I think it was really clever.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways.
Well, this is one of like Pixar's movies recent movies, I guess, within the last. It's been a while now since the first Inside Out came out, but I remember being very impressed with it when I first saw it.
It's been almost 10 years.
Yeah, in a way that I have not been for basically any other Pixar movie. Like Incredibles 2, Coco, beautiful, but Luca, eh. Soul, Soul was decent.
Soul was really good though. We liked Soul.
It was, yeah, but like I didn't have the same feeling that I did after watching Inside Out. After watching Inside Out, I felt, wow, this is actually very profound, and how clever it is makes it feel even more profound than maybe it even actually is. It's just really good, and I think that this one is just as good, and they could continue making these. Obviously, they could take her into adulthood. They could take her into finding a new job or whatever. Like there's more stories here to tell, and there's more fun little jokes to come up with, like the sarcasm.
Yeah. We were sitting on the plane and Braden was watching a different movie. It's like, Braden, you have to watch this part. So there's this part where puberty happens and new emotions arrive into the headquarters, what do they call it?
Yeah, headquarters.
Headquarters.
It's just the mind, right?
And anxiety pretty much kicks all of the old emotions out and is like, we don't need you. I'll take care of everything from here. So they get kicked out, and Joy is trying to get them to basically go back. And they get stuck. This chasm opens in the middle of where they're trying to go. And Fear is like, oh no, it's a sarcasm.
No, it's the worker. There's like a worker that tells them that.
This chasm is called sarcasm. And so Joy is yelling across this giant chasm, asking for these workers to help her. And
as their voices travel across the chasm, they become sarcastic. So like, hey, we really need your help becomes, hey, we really need your help. And they all try, except for anger. All the other emotions, the original emotions, try to say something, and it turns into sarcasm, and then
I just thought that was so clever.
Yeah. Yeah, really good. I also like how, even though there's a lot of new things coming into Riley's mind, these new, the new emotions and the sense of belief or the belief system, the mind is equipped to handle all of it. They're sort of just the emotions that are controlling her mind are learning as they go.
Mm-hmm.
But like the mind was always ready to accommodate everyone.
Did you like how nostalgia kept
showing
up? That made me laugh.
And she comes in too early.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I feel like is true.
Yeah.
People become nostalgic way too early. Like in high school, what do you have to be nostalgic about? I thought this was really good. I'm not sure how much more there is to say about it, which feels, I guess, like a little bit of a disservice to this movie, because I think it is one of the best Pixar movies that's come out in recent years. And
no, yeah, it is. I looked up the best Pixar movies from the last 10 years. We've got Onward.
Yeah.
It was okay. Soul, I remember us really liking that movie.
Yeah, I thought Soul was good.
Lightyear, we never watched it. Luca, we weren't impressed. Yeah. Cars 3, I think that one was just fine.
I never saw it. I never saw it because I heard it wasn't good. And I heard Elemental wasn't good, so I didn't watch it.
Elemental was okay.
Okay.
I kind of liked it. Coco, like Braden said, beautiful.
Beautiful, but like, I don't know. I've never watched that movie again since I first saw it in theaters.
Outside of like babysitting and stuff, yeah, no.
And I've never thought about it again. Like, I've thought about Inside Out after having watched it, because it is one of those ones that makes you think and reflect.
Yeah.
About healthy emotions.
And then there's a bunch of short.
Incredibles 2. Did you already say that one?
Incredibles 2, which I didn't love.
No, it's not great. It's fine.
Turning Red, it was fine. Toy Story 4, I don't think we watched it. And the rest are shorts, I think. I will say about Inside Out 2, I really liked their take on anxiety.
Yeah.
And
how it can be a good thing.
It can be a good thing in small doses and or correct proportions, but having only anxiety run your brain and your body is not healthy.
Yeah.
And just as someone that really struggles with anxiety, I really liked how they did it, you know?
Yeah. No, they do their homework about all of these emotions and their rightful place within the human psyche. That's something that they've always done. That was the whole message in the first one, right? Don't kick out sadness because you need it. Sadness is something that we need.
Yeah.
We need to hit that release valve every once in a while.
For it to be healthy.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Is there anything more to say about it?
Yes. Let's rate it, and then I just have one thing for spoilers.
Okay. I would give this probably an 8.5. Just really solid. Really solid Pixar movie. The only reason I don't think I'm giving it anything higher is I've sort of become sick of the way that Pixar movies look. I don't know if you feel that way too.
In what way?
They all look the same.
Like cookie cutter, or
Yeah, like cookie cutter.
like the animation? You don't like the animation?
No, I think the animation's really good, but it all looks the same. Just textures and environments and humans, they all look like this looked like Soul, which looks like The Incredibles, which looks like, whatever.
So
And people complain about Illumination for that reason, how everything looks the same in an Illumination movie. I think that Pixar is just as guilty of a party as Illumination is. And the only studio that has recently tried to spice it up a little bit, besides Sony with the Spider-Verse movies, is DreamWorks with the Puss in Boots movie, and then
yeah, what was that other one?
The Wild Robot.
Yeah.
So
I will say Elemental, though, the animation with that was pretty good.
Was that different?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. That's the reason. Unfair a little bit because it still is very competent and I'm sure tons of work went into it. But anyways, I'm sticking with my 8.5. I'll give it an 8.5 anxiety attacks out of 10.
I was gonna say that. I'm also gonna rate this. Well, I'm gonna rate this a 9.
Okay.
Because I think it was really creative. I mean, who would ever think to call a chasm a sarcasm? It literally just has the word chasm in there, and I never would have thought about it.
Yeah.
You know, I just think there are certain things about this movie and like this whole the Inside Out universe, whatever, that is just very creative.
Yeah.
And I liked the callback when they pulled up the dental song or whatever.
That was in the first one?
That was in the first one.
Oh.
That was a callback to the first one. It's just like those catchy jingles that you see on TV that, like, for some reason you can never forget.
Yeah.
And they just made a callback to that, and I thought that was fun. And
yeah. But this is what a kids movie should be.
Yeah.
It's a family movie.
This is for sure a family movie, I would say.
It's something that everyone gets something out of.
Yeah. I'm gonna rate this an 8.5.
You said 9.
Oh yeah, a 9. I was thinking about what you were saying earlier. A 9. Red stripes in your hair. So just spoilers really fast. So I would recommend this movie. So if you haven't seen this yet, skip this part. I liked at the end how, Joey kept trying to say that Riley's core value was that she's a good person, and Anxiety wanted it to be anxiety was her core value. And I liked that when they took that away and let Riley's
create her own,
it was very complex.
Yeah.
Because that's true.
I remembered one thing I also didn't like. Part of why it's getting an 8.5 instead of a 9. When they are trying to journey their way to find the old core belief system that gets booted out of Riley's mind by Anxiety, and when I say they, I mean the other original emotions, so fear, envy, and
disgust.
Oh, you're right. Fear, disgust, and anger. At this point, sadness is going on a solo mission, but those other 3 emotions are basically like, this is stupid. We don't have a plan. This doesn't make any sense. We should probably cut our losses and head back. And then Joy has a little breakdown. And then all of a sudden, all 3 of the emotions just flip immediately. And they're like, well, hey, we can't give up now.
Yeah.
I didn't like that very much. It was too much of a flip-flop, snip-snap. Also, I will say, sadness is definitely my favorite of the original emotions.
She's great.
She's just so cute.
Yeah.
With her little mopey ways and her
Yeah.
sweater and
And like she's like kind of bashful.
the way she walks around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would watch a sadness and ennui solo movie. Wouldn't you?
Yeah.
All right. Was there anything else?
No.
Okay. Let's move on to the other movie that we both watched on the plane. I watched this one first, and then I said to Micah, I says, Micah, you have to watch it. And I made her watch it on the flight back. Didn't I, Micah?
That's true.
And this one is called Scrapper. This one came out in 2023. It's the directorial debut. Let me get all the information here. It's the directorial debut of one Charlotte Reagan, and also the acting introduction of a young girl named Lola Campbell. And it's about this girl named Georgie, and she is growing up in, I believe, West London, in a suburb of West London, like a poor neighborhood of West London. And her mom has died, and she's living by herself, and she doesn't want to live with anyone else. She wants to take care of herself. She's very independent.
Did you say she's 12?
Yeah, she's a 12-year-old girl.
Because she doesn't want to go into the system.
Right.
She wants to live in the home
Yeah.
that her and her mom lived in.
Yeah.
And she needs to keep everything the same.
Yeah. And she keeps tricking the social service workers into thinking that her uncle Winston Churchill
lives with her.
Is taking care of her. And then eventually her dad comes back, played by Harris Dickinson.
Did you know he's in that new movie?
Which new movie?
With what's her face?
Is he the main
guy?
Oh, really?
What's her name? I can't think of it right
Nicole
now.
Kidman.
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah.
That new movie, Baby Girl, which
apparently I've heard people talk about it, like it's been screened at Sundance and Telluride and these other film festivals. People love it for some reason.
This movie, Baby Girl?
Yeah.
It's not a new thing.
Yeah, it didn't look original to me at all when I saw the trailers. It looked like 50 Shades of Grey meets some other movie. Like, it's just
a toxic, controlling sex movie.
I'm curious to see what people love so much about it. Like, I just saw it and I thought, 'tis smut. Like, it looks.
Yeah.
I don't want to write it off before
it's been released to the public.
Yeah, I at least can hear some other people's opinions about it and maybe give it a chance. But it just looked like a big old nothing, like something that we've seen a million times in a million different shows. And
yeah.
Anyways, whatever. But his name is Jason in Scrapper.
Okay, so you might be wondering how the girl's name is Georgie. How did Georgie, pay the rent and take care of herself money-wise while being an orphan?
Yeah.
And she stole bikes.
Yeah, with her friend.
With her friend, Allie.
Yeah, they steal bikes and they sell them to a fence. They paint over the serial numbers.
Yeah.
Sell them to a fence. That's how she's paying the bills. I really liked this one.
I thought it was so funny.
Yeah, I really liked it.
Well, also dealing with very big emotions.
Yeah.
Also.
I have some notes here. I'll start reading them and then you interject when you have a thought.
Oh, that's allowed?
Yeah, that is permitted. Or, if you've got a list of notes, we can take turns.
No, go ahead.
So I wrote that the little girl needs to be likable for this movie to work, and she is really likable.
Yeah. You really have a lot of compassion for her.
Yeah.
I would say. But, she's funny.
Her comedic timing is so good.
And she's scrappy. I mean,
Scrapper, right.
She's scrappy. To be able to do this and take care of herself and have the gumption, or I don't know what the right word is, to trick the social services. Not that it was that hard.
Yeah.
And take care of herself, and it seems like she's really trying to be good.
Yeah.
And not in the sense of ethically and all of that, but just live life and all that.
Right. So he absolutely works, and then
she.
And then the dad really works too. Both of their performances are just so.
Bryn's making the okay sign from the fan. Wait, can we talk about how funny it was when Georgie and Allie are talking in the living room and Jason jumps the back fence?
Yeah. I like how that's always a thing in this movie.
Yeah.
And at the end, it's Allie jumping over the back fence.
Because Georgie has never met her dad. From what it sounds like, Jason and the mom, I don't remember her name, do you?
No, I don't. But they fell out.
They got pregnant very young. I'm guessing they were 18, maybe 19, when the mom got pregnant and Jason left and has been absent for the last 12 years.
Yeah.
And so Georgie's never met her dad, and he hops the fence and is basically like, hey, what's up?
I'm your dad.
Yeah.
You need someone taking care of you.
And Georgie's basically like, piss off.
Yeah, resistant to it. Tries to trick him, tries to get him to leave in a couple of different ways. He ends up actually kind of being a perfect dad for her.
Yeah.
Because he is her.
Yeah.
There's a scene where they have stolen some bikes, and Jason walks in on them repainting the bikes, and he's like, you got to scratch the serial numbers off. Like, you think that he's going to be like, this is what you're doing to make money? What are you doing? Why are you doing this? And he's like, oh, here, let me help you steal them better.
Yeah.
And he gives them the knife, his knife, and he's like, look, you can paint over the serial numbers, but you can still feel them.
Yeah.
So you got to scratch them off. Yeah, like, yes.
He's just kind of a punk.
Yeah, like, yes, that's not great, right? he's helping.
But this is what Georgie needs.
He's helping Georgie to be a criminal. But also, like, they live in a hard neighborhood, and they have both lived hard lives, and, you know, I'm willing to forgive a little bit of petty crime.
Yeah.
Because I think that they both have good hearts.
And if this is the worst they're doing, that's fine.
Yeah, not bad. I mean, there is a part, I don't know how much we want to spoil before.
Don't want to spoil.
Okay. There is a part where Georgie finds a bullet in his jacket.
Because she's nosy. Because she doesn't want him to know that she wants to know more about him. And he won't really say a whole lot. Because he doesn't know how, right?
Yeah.
And so she's trying to, like, sneakily, like, snoop through his things.
Yeah.
This is a massive bullet.
Yeah, it looks like
it's like a 4 or 5 inch long.
It looks like a 5.57 round, which is what you would use in an AR-15 or, like, you know, a rifle like that. And I remember thinking, how that is not a West London gun.
No.
Like, there's no way that, what? Anyway, there's an explanation for how he has that bullet. So without going into spoilers, that was a tangent. But yeah, like, it's really a touching kind of movie, and watching them grow into a father-daughter dynamic, but also like a friendship dynamic, was really good.
Because they need each other.
Yeah, and it's really funny too the whole time. It's not just like touchy-feely, kumbaya sort of good. It's really funny, so it earns the touchy-feely kumbaya moments.
Yeah. And I think they did such a good job of Georgie's character because she's very tomboy. She's very boyish.
Yeah.
She has a boy best friend, and they go out and they steal things, and like she's a very tomboy.
She wears the same West Ham United jersey all the time. That's all she wears.
Yeah.
And she never wants to take it off, and at a certain point Jason's like, they're at a laundromat, and he's like, give me that, it stinks, you've been wearing it ever since I got here. And she's like, no. He's like, give it to me, and then she does. That's who she is, though.
And, you know, she's by herself at 12 years old. That's so scary. And her mom died, and she's trying to go through all of the stages of grief in order. You know, she's trying to track it for herself. And at the same time, having this tough, hard exterior of, I'm okay, I can take care of myself. But I really love the way that they had Georgie handle, when she's trying to handle, like, vulnerable moments. You know, she's asking Jason questions about himself, and she, like, won't make eye contact. And she's kind of, like, looking down at the ground, and she's, like, you know, maybe biting her lip, or, like, she feels awkward.
Yeah.
But she still needs these vulnerable moments for her own health and all of that, you know?
Well, and she needs levity, because she's losing her childhood.
Yeah.
Like, before our eyes.
Yeah.
But then her dad comes back, and, like, they're walking at a certain point. They're walking on opposite sides of the street, and the dad
I
is
love
like,
this part.
miming all these like funny little things,
Yeah.
and he's like puts his shoe up to his
Ears if it's a phone.
pretends like he's talking, and
Yeah, like every time he passes a tall car, he does something else. That's
different,
funny.
right? And it starts to make her crack and laugh, right?
Yeah.
And that's what she's been missing ever since her mother died.
Fun.
Yeah.
Happiness.
Because she has Allie, but Allie is also a kid and has his own life, and she can't be with him.
No, and he can't be that for her.
Yeah. So it was just really, really good. And let's rate it before we talk about anything more. We don't want to spoil it.
Okay.
I will say the ending scene of this movie is like basically perfect.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Song choice, what's happening in the scene, how the film is ending in general, the note that it ends on, it's just perfect. But let's rate it real quick.
Okay. I'm gonna rate this a 9.
Yeah.
A 9 stupid social services out of 10.
Apparently that's a complaint people have had that don't like this movie. They're like, I'm sick of social services being portrayed in this light or whatever.
Okay, then why don't they do better themselves?
Right. Well, like, I mean, I don't know what the ins and outs of the social service system in England are.
But here in the States, it's not great.
Sure. And it's also fine it's fine to portray it in a bad way if that's the author's experience,
Yeah.
or if that's like.
Well, it's also not like they're like pointing at like one specific person.
Yeah.
As far as we can tell, they're pointing at a government agency
And
saying you're not doing a good job.
And you're gonna sit there and look me dead in the ass and tell me.
Ew.
You're gonna sit there and look dead into my eyeballs ass.
Stop.
That like there aren't bad social workers. Like maybe this is just one example of a bad social worker.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that? Like I don't understand why people are getting up in arms about that. It is what it is. So whatever. But a 9 bad social workers, you said?
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 9 funny little spiders out of 10.
That's fair. Parents Guide really fast.
Yeah.
I think there is some language.
There's no F words.
Okay.
I don't think I counted a 1. I think this is appropriate for kids.
This movie, I think when I looked this up just barely, it says not rated. So you might think, oh, I can't watch that, but it's not rated.
You can.
But you can. They don't show there's no violence, there's no nudity or sex or any of that. I think the only thing is like mild language.
Very, very light on everything. And this is, again, I think this is totally appropriate for kids.
Well, and really fast. I know you already said this, but I need it to be said here at the end near the rating. This movie is really funny.
Yeah.
They handled this topic so well because it's not as though like they were just making light of this topic of, she was an orphan.
Yeah.
For
however long.
For a while. Her best friend, her mom died. Her whole life changed.
Yeah.
But yes, there are sad moments, but there's also always going to be happiness and moments of that. And I think that they did such a good job of that.
Yeah. It's definitely more upbeat than it is sad.
Yeah.
More hopeful, I'll say.
Hopeful.
Than it is sad. I'll also add though, even though like it's appropriate for kids, I'm not sure kids are really going to get
or enjoy it
as much out of it because they might think it's a little boring. It is British humor, right? So there's not going to be people falling down and getting punched in the face or whatever. It's more, it's a little more dry, right? But it's very worth watching. Like if you, I'd say probably an adolescent would like it, is getting to the stage of life where they can understand or appreciate movies that are maybe a little different than other things that they've seen. But adults, like, don't worry about this if you have a code.
Yeah.
You can watch this, and you should watch this. It's really good. The ending scene.
So this is spoilers?
Yeah. Spoiler time. Go watch this if you haven't seen it. Because I really think that the ending just really hits really nicely. There's a certain point.
We didn't talk about the editing.
Okay. You want to talk about the editing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, there were so many times during this movie. So when Jason first shows up, Allie and Georgie try to lock him out of the house, and they go off to this cafe. Whatever. And they're like, what do you think he does for a living? And they're talking about it back and forth. And what was the first one?
Maybe he's a big time gangster.
And it cuts over as if he's sitting in the corner, and Jason's wearing
there's a spotlight
suit.
on the corner.
Yeah. And he's wearing a suit. And then they're like, maybe he's in the mob.
A vampire.
Yeah, a vampire. And it cuts back over to him. And I just feel like the editing of this movie was so funny.
Well, and for this to be the first movie that this director's ever done,
it's great.
It's impressive.
Yeah.
It's very impressive. Going back to the ending, there's a certain point in the movie, because Georgie and Jason are both immature. Obviously, Georgie is 12.
Yeah.
So she is learning and growing by nature of being a young kid. Jason dodged his parental responsibilities when he was a really young kid. Had Georgie when he was a really young kid, and has since been living in Ibiza with his friend. Yeah, I won't do that.
I know.
I'm sorry, I just won't do that. I don't like that.
It's like he just put growing up on pause.
Right. So he has growing up to do as well. There's a certain point where Georgie ends up attacking a schoolmate because the schoolmate is kind of being a brat.
And has never been
poking buttons that are very sensitive. And so Georgie beats her up. And Jason says, it's okay, I'll go fix it, because the mom goes to their house.
The mom of the girl that got beat up.
This is a moment I really liked too, by the way. Yeah, the mom of the girl that got beat up is banging on the door,
looking through the window.
And Jason and Georgie are in the house, and Georgie's like shaking her head, don't answer the door. And you know that like a normal functioning stable parent would open the door.
Yeah.
But Jason's like, all right, let's slip out the back.
Yeah.
Like he's exactly who Georgie needs.
Yeah.
But
she's hurting, and he is a kid. He's still a kid.
But then he tries to go give money to the woman, and she's like, you think that I want money? Like money's gonna fix it?
Well, she's like, you think that's appropriate?
And he just doesn't understand. And this is a moment where he's like, oh, maybe I'm not right for Georgie.
Maybe I don't know how to do this.
Yeah. And so he ends up leaving his phone for Georgie to listen to a voicemail that was sent to him by her mother right before she died, and leaves to go play some pickup soccer, basically. Well, he's thinking about just leaving.
He's thinking about, being done.
Because he doesn't feel like he's right.
Yeah.
Like he can do it. He's just going to mess it all up. And also, like, Georgie has not really given him the validation that he is wanted.
Yeah.
Right? She's laughed at his jokes. They've done the fun little dance. They've done the mimicking.
They've had some bonding.
Yeah.
But she still is like, I'm independent.
Yeah.
I don't need you. And that's just her being scared.
Yeah. And also, again, he's immature. He doesn't realize that he is needed. So she listens to the voicemail. Basically, the mom told Jason to go back. Like, she's going to need you.
Yeah.
And Georgie goes and finds him, and they have a heart-to-heart.
Which is a
really great heart-to-heart, interspersed with jokes.
Yeah.
It's great. And they decide, Georgie says, no, I actually want you to stay. And he's like, okay, deal.
Does this mean I have to change your nappies?
Should we have a cuddle?
And as they're walking away, should we hold hands?
Yeah.
She's like, go away.
And then it cuts to them coming back from the hardware store because they're going to paint the house, which is, Georgie's moving on. They're changing it.
They're allowed to change things now.
Yeah. And they're just having a normal conversation. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
And then they start painting the house, and then Allie jumps over the fence. And then they comment on the tracksuit he's wearing, right? And they just keep painting it, all while the song is playing in the background, and then it just ends. It's brilliant, really great.
Yeah.
Like they're living as a family now. And it's just so happy.
And I love how Jason's like, I don't know how to do this. I don't know how to be your dad.
Yeah.
I'm gonna mess up. And Georgie's like, well, I'm gonna mess up too. And they just both agree that
it's fine.
It's okay.
Yeah. Really good.
I just loved, like, that was probably my favorite moment of the movie.
When she goes and finds him at the pickup soccer game.
Yeah, and they talk and have that conversation.
Yeah. But there are many moments that are
so great. I mean, them at the train station
so great.
pretending to have that conversation about that couple.
Or when he hides the bracelet that he gives her in the field and they have the metal detector and everything. That's where he got the bullet, by the way. He found it with a metal detector in a field. So, you know, I was like, okay, all right, that's fine.
Yeah.
Someone else had a freaking gun that they definitely shouldn't be having in England.
Yeah.
But this is just so worth watching.
Remember when Allie's mom shows up at their house for dinner and she's like, okay, well, it was definitely very interesting meeting you. And he's like, yeah, nice to meet you. And she goes, yeah, interesting.
I thought that they were going to do like a romance thing or something between them. I'm glad they didn't.
Yeah.
They kept it tight and focused on... I
was worried that they were going to have Allie and Georgie have a romance.
Yeah.
Because they were just friends and they're just still little. And, you know, Georgie still has an imagination. And I'm glad that they just kept it exactly the way that they
kept it pure. This is what it needs to be. It needs to focus on the father-daughter dynamic and them growing together. And it does that really, really well. So go watch this. All right, last thing, Micah. Last thing on the docket.
Okay, I read this book. It's called Lessons in Chemistry. So this book is about Elizabeth Zott, who is a single mother and a chemist in the 60s who faces sexism and other challenges as she tries to pursue her career.
It's real life. Real story.
I think it's just a story. So it kind of skips back and forth between... Well, I think the book...
Tangent. Real quick.
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
At a certain point in No Country for Old Men, actually, wait, I gotta back up to Fargo.
Oh my gosh.
So at the beginning of Fargo, it always says the following is based on true events. This is a real story. So that was in the original movie, and apparently it's just a giant mislead.
It's a lie?
It's just a joke. Yeah, it's a complete lie. And later in No Country for Old Men, Tommy Lee Jones's character tells the story to one of the other characters, and they're like, was that true, by the way, what you told me, that story? He's like, true. It's certainly true that it was a story.
That's like an Avatar.
Yeah.
Is that real or a legend? Oh, it's a real legend.
I'm almost positive that they took that from No Country. Because it's like, yeah, anyways, go ahead.
So the book starts in Elizabeth Zott's current life. She has a 4 or 5-year-old daughter, and they kind of start the book there, and then it jumps back to like the 50s, like in the beginning of the early 50s, I think. She's a student at Berkeley trying to finish her... Is it Berkeley or is it USC?
Oh, where does she live?
She lives eventually down south. I think, let's just say it's USC. It doesn't really matter. She's trying to finish her master's in chemistry, and her her advisor is this misogynistic asshole. He has sexually harassed so many women in their department that are, you know, secretaries or typists or whatever various roles that these women have in this department. He has sexually harassed all of them, that no woman stays longer than 6 months. And the department and the school will not get rid of him because he's a man. And...
Oh, is he tenured?
I don't know. It might be that too, but still. He ends up essaying Elizabeth, and when the police show up, they don't even take her statement. They don't fill out a report. And she ends up having to leave her program because of this guy assaulting her.
Is this based on real cases?
I think a lot of these stories are probably true. Things that happen in this. Because just listen. Okay, so she ends up going and working at a chemistry lab, pretty much, and trying to do research and all of that. Nobody takes her seriously because she's a woman. Even though individually all of these male chemists will come and talk to her and ask for her help and her input on what they're doing. But then they'll go back into the lab and be like, Elizabeth doesn't know what she's talking about at all. She's dumb. And then each of them will come and help. And so she knows she loves chemistry and she loves science and all of that. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to have kids. She had kind of a rough upbringing.
Well, she's probably a witch.
Yeah,
She's a woman doing science.
science.
Which
Exactly.
is probably should burn her. But
Yeah,
keep
that's
going.
fair. I think they did such a good job in this book of her being a feminist and just being like, well, if a guy can do it, I can do it.
Mm-hmm.
If a guy can do that, I can do that. You know, it just because I'm a woman doesn't mean I can't do the same things you can do. I think that they and like just so far above her time in all of that and like in that aspect, it was not obnoxious.
Well, yeah, I mean that was the first wave of feminism, which is.
But like all the women that she's like surrounded by and like work and like eventually her kids like parents in her class.
Yeah.
Just all these other women that she's surrounded by don't think the same way as her. And like I think that it was so interesting that she's like, well, just stating these things as fact. So eventually she meets this guy, can't remember his name.
McDreamy.
Do you know that that's what they call people in Grey's Anatomy? Like McDreamy and.
No, it was just that one doctor, the Patrick Dempsey guy.
I think there was another one though.
He's McDreamy though.
He's McDreamy, but there's another one, Mick something.
McDonald?
No. She ends up falling in love with a coworker. His name is Calvin, who is super smart and has all these awards for chemistry and all of that. And they end up moving in together, which is crazy, you know, for the 50s and 60s. Them being.
Oh, wait, she's living where again?
In Southern California. Even, like, at least in the book, like, people are, like,
okay.
calling her a floozy.
Right.
For that. But, of course.
A witch of science.
Yeah.
A science witch.
They have, like, a great love story. It doesn't start out perfect. Like, the way that they meet is so unromantic.
Was it Tinder?
No. I just think that this book did such a good job of talking about some of these harder topics. You know, she eventually gets pregnant, but Calvin is not in the picture. And when we eventually catch up to when her daughter is starting school, just the things that she has to deal with, the prejudice that she has to deal with of being a single mom and everybody knows that she was never married, and so, you know, they call her kid a bastard and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually Elizabeth has this TV show where she talks about cooking, and she talks about like the chemical components of all these foods and everything, and the people in the TV studio are like, nobody wants to hear this. People want to see you in like a tight dress and your hair done and all these knickknacks and everything. Nobody wants to hear you talk about the chemical components of cooking. But then she meets all these different fans, these women that are like, I actually feel like I'm understanding this and I'm learning chemistry or whatever from this, and it's so interesting and I can do hard things, and just I just think in so many different aspects this book does such a great job in talking about like women empowerment. I will say one thing that I did not like about this, and maybe this is dumb of me to say, I just feel like Elizabeth is like on the spectrum and they never talk about it or like reference it. The way that she doesn't handle change very well, just like a lot of different things. I'm like, okay, well that ticks the box of that, of being on the spectrum, and that does, and that does. And I just want it just is kind of annoying that it's like never addressed.
Well, maybe she just isn't on the spectrum.
She might not be. But if you read this book,
not everybody has to be on the spectrum. I mean, everybody does have to be on the spectrum.
If you read this book, I think you would agree with me.
So when she was dating, what's the guy's name again?
Calvin.
It was love on the spectrum?
Yeah.
Cool.
But I think I'm going to rate this book a 9.5.
Whoa.
I would definitely read this again, and I would definitely recommend this book to a bunch of different people, because the things that women are allowed to do, and I hate even saying that, but like, has come so far.
Oh, since you said 70s?
From the 60s.
60s.
I mean,
yeah.
We weren't allowed to have our own bank accounts. You could work, but the money would go straight to your husband. You weren't allowed to have a credit card when they came out. What if you were
single?
And then I guess it was allowed, but like it was still like you couldn't go and get a birth control prescription without a note from your husband.
What if you didn't have a husband?
You weren't allowed to get birth control.
What? So
Or you could forge a note in that, but
so it's better to have kids out of wedlock?
you're supposed
That makes no sense. Like single people should be able to access birth control
They
even
didn't
more
want
than
you-
married
you-
people.
You were a promiscuous person.
Okay, but
A woman, because, it's fine for the guys and not for the girl.
that's dumb.
I just think they did such a good job of showing all of these different things of what women were not allowed to do, and just pointing out how stupid it was.
Yeah.
So a 9.5. It takes a village.
Okay. But Georgie wouldn't agree with that.
No, but it's just build your own village. That's what she did.
Right.
She built her own village.
With Legos.
Exactly.
Or Lincoln Logs, if that's what you're into.
And it just, women were just categorized into, if they wanted to work, they could be a typist or secretary. And that's just so limiting.
Yeah.
So, that's all. What do we have coming up?
Next week we will either watch Conclave or The Bike Riders. It's up in the air. We will not be watching the movie Up in the Air. That much is for certain.
Oh yeah, that movie was so sad.
Yeah. But it's good though.
Yeah, until the end.
Mr. George Clooney.
Yeah.
And Anna Kendrick.
Did you know that people have looked up at the videos that actors make for their most looked up searches with their name, what people look up associated with their name?
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Anna Kendrick making this video, and one of them was, are Anna Kendrick and Kendrick Lamar related?
Oh, you're talking about the autocomplete interviews?
Yeah, whatever it is.
Yeah. And Kendrick Lamar related?
Yeah.
Wow. How confused do you have to be as a person to search that?
Yeah.
You know what? I'll forgive it if it's someone from a different country where the naming culture is different.
Oh, yeah.
Then I'll forgive it. If that was an American typing that question,
It probably was.
open a book.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so it's either going to be Conclave or The Bike Riders. Probably more likely than not Conclave, I feel like, since that's brand new. On The Bike Riders, I think The Bike Riders came out 2 years ago.
I thought it came out this year.
Was it this year? Either way, you're getting a hot and fresh current events.
No, last year.
Last year. Yeah. So more likely than not Conclave, but we will be talking about both of them.
Yeah. Do you have anything separate you think you'll talk about?
Yeah. One of my movies that I watched.
I thought you were gonna.
Oh, The Penguin. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna be talking about The Penguin next week, and then the week after that, I'll talk about another plane movie I watched.
Okay. Anyways, have a great week, everybody. Bye.